a little bit later, but some tech issues with LinkedIn. Those
Well,
sort of go on.
If anyone knows Michael, they know that Michael is technology is his thing.
Oh yeah, I love tech. Can't get enough of it. Doesn't frustrate me at all. Yeah, so we were on a little bit late. LinkedIn just being strange. I won't use a swear word. I'll save them for a little bit later. Yeah. So look, episode 13. So hopefully, well, we're going to discuss what to do if January didn't go to plan. So look, if you're on here and you're listening and you've been watching our trade-ins and videos and January has gone to plan, awesome. Hopefully you're feeling good for it and you've moved forward, maybe lost a bit of weight, got a bit more energy. That's great. If it hasn't gone to plan, this is the video for you. And we're also going to give you some exact steps to take from today to move forward. Because look, it's the 1st of February. Maybe January's been awesome and you're in a good place, but maybe it hasn't quite gone to plan and we want to help you move forward. By the way, we haven't discussed this at all. So we are literally freestyling it completely straight in.
Don't tell people our secret. That's like our dirty secret. But yeah, I suppose with health, January's like it's generally full on. And we both worked in gyms, and I go to the gym, and people talk about health and stuff for a lot of January, don't they? And I know quite a few people have been doing dry January this year. It feels like maybe more than usual, but maybe I'm just a bit more aware of it. And I know some people have done all right. I know even the ones that have managed to stick to it. It's really hard, that kind of cutting things out kind of thing.
Yeah, so maybe we'll start there, because like I said, guys, we haven't discussed this at all. Normally we have a quick 5 minutes beforehand, but we were trying to get into LinkedIn, so we haven't discussed this at all. But I still think we'll be able to give you some value. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Let's maybe start at, if you haven't done so well in January, what are the reasons that you think that maybe people struggled?
I think maybe the first one is maybe trying something too big. Like I think dry January is a good example. Even though we don't need alcohol in our lives, I would say most of us, I think maybe Northern European, but most people in England enjoy a drink, and it's a bit like food. Food's more than just for me, it's more than just sustenance and energy. There's like for example, breakfast with my family. I really like that time because we sit down. It's the only time we sit down for 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the morning together. So I think with drinking, I think sometimes it's like I know I'm drinking too much. So what am I going to do? Dry down is a big thing, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to stop drinking, and it's going to be good for me. And it's hard to go kind of not saying you're addicted, but it's hard to go cold turkey on something like that. Like cutting out anything, like cutting out carbs, whatever it is. So I think maybe it's just a bit too big, and we have maybe sometimes we go into things with an unrealistic expectation of whether we could do it.
Yeah, and also maybe looking at previous experience, because look, at the end of the day, I think there's caveats to everything, and I think if you've maybe got not the best relationship with alcohol, and that's probably a good reason to do it. Like identifying there's maybe an underlying struggle issue, and alcohol's a lot of the time the catalyst. Maybe if it's eating too much, or you got yourself into certain situations, said certain things, and it's all revolves around alcohol, as a deeper issue that probably needs to be solved. But I think if it's, I just ate and drunk too much at Christmas, so I'm going to do dry January, that's probably not the reason to do it.
No.
It's, because the chances are you've probably done that before other Januaries, and has it made that much difference to the rest of the year? Probably not, because it's the first, probably desperate to go to the pub after Christmas and after work today, and suddenly what are you really actually looking to achieve?
Yeah, and I suppose sometimes it's like I get to February and then I don't have to do it anymore, and I've done it, and there's like a relief, and then it stops. Whereas I think if safe, like we're talking about alcohol, if that's the thing you've worked on, think about how that's going to fit into your life forever. So you're not going to drink anything for the rest of your life. Now, if I enjoy a pint, I enjoy a drink. I used to drink a lot more, and now I don't. So I would never not want it in my life. And but I'm fully aware that the safe level of alcohol is zero. It's zero. And
Yeah.
that's all the research says now. That it used to be like the government would say, almost like say, oh, you can have so many pints a day. Oh no, it was a week, wasn't it? At first, it was like you could have
Yeah.
28 units a week, then it was 21, and then they changed it to per day. People said, "Oh, this is my allowance per day," but actually, all the research says that actually the safe level of alcohol is nothing. So I suppose we have to go into it with that knowledge that if it's going to be part of your life, you're making a choice. That actually, if I have a cup, if I have, I don't know, 3 or 4 pints a week, is it going to affect my life a lot? Probably not. So I don't know. I'm okay with that. I'm going to own that.
So, yeah, and I think it's about whatever it is, like alcohol, or maybe you've struggled with relationships with foods. I think I agree that the goal's almost too big, and it might not be too hard, but it's going to be hard if you enjoy socializing and having a drink after work or a drink with your friends and family at the weekends. And the flip to that is, if you struggle with food, like people do veganuary, and it's like really fucking difficult.
Yeah.
Like all these diets, like keto, like going vegan when you're not prepared, and you got like all these things. It's like the goal's so big that you're going to struggle off the bat. And also, like, what is it you're really trying to achieve? Are you going to be vegan for the rest of your life? Potentially not, if it's just one of those things that you thought, oh, do you know what, I'll do it for January. But again, there's caveats though, because if that's going to make you feel better and you're going to get more energy, good, because it may be a stepping stone to move forward. But I think the key, and this is maybe why people fail, is like you've got to think long term, not just
It's
January.
hard, isn't it? It's hard thinking. Like I think there's something definitely in the human psyche about long term, kind of long term things and long term health. If we're talking about health, about damaging our health, because I think like an example is smoking. Now I read a stat somewhere about the number of people that smoke in this country, and I think it was still about a quarter. But which
Really,
do you know what? I might be totally wrong with it, but whatever the number was, I was like, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. And if you think about something which is like, if smoking is guaranteed to, if you smoke in your life, it's going to damage your health. And that again, that's science. It's studies. It's massive studies.
yeah.
It's proven, but people still do it. So it's like that's because we find it very difficult to think long term. But I think with a little bit of mental, like I know, I'm going to say mindset, mental stuff, we can maybe think beyond a month, can't we? And think, right, what's my 6 months or a year?
I
So
think
maybe that's
if you look at 6 months, yeah, I think if you look at 6 months, it's enough of a period of time to for it not to be a short-term goal. And I think what ideally everyone should be thinking about in January is ask yourself this question, whether it's a diet or a program around exercise, and could I be doing this? Can I see myself doing this in 6 months? And if the answer is yes, it's probably something that you can do. If the answer is no, when you're up at 5 a.m. every morning, when you've never got up at, say, 7 a.m. before, and that's been a struggle, are you going to be likely to do that in 6 months' time? Maybe. I'm not saying you couldn't, because, we can change our mindset and we can get all the energy and we can change. We see it happen. Some people absolutely hate running, get into running. It can happen. But what is the likeliness of it really going to happen? Probably not. So, I think if you look at could I see myself doing this in 6 months? And that's the food, that's the exercise, that's maybe going to bed at a certain amount of time, everything that goes into like holistic approach, like to wellness. So I think that's the questions people need to be asking themselves. Can I see myself doing this in 6 months' time? And if it's yes, fucking do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something that we kind of drill home quite a lot about not doing too much, and about changing behaviors and the power in changing small behaviors. And it does take a little bit of leap of faith, saying, do you know what? I'm not going to do what most people do and do the big thing, like, I don't know, cut things out and do massive things. What I'm going to do, I'm going to think about what small habits can I fit in. And we drill it home, don't we, to our clients, and we drill it home on this. And when we speak to people, say, just make these small changes. I don't know whether it's always been in the human mind or whether it's just driven by the way the world is now. But there is a definite need for some kind of big thing if we're thinking about health, if we've been struggling with our weight and our health for a long time, then it probably feels like a really difficult thing to fix. So obviously we need a massively difficult thing to fix that problem. But actually the reality, if we think 6 months, some of the small habits we talk about, if you nailed those for the next 6 months, God, you'd make a massive difference.
You'd be a different person.
Yeah.
100%. You'd be a different person if you was able to be consistent with the gym and the food habits and sleep. Like those 4 things there, you'd be a different person in 6 months. But I think it is how we've changed and evolved. Like everything's at the touch of a button now. I could order a delivery and it be here in 10 minutes. I can watch my movies straight away. I've got access to everything I want pretty much at a touch of a button. So we have no delayed gratification. Everything's instant. So why wouldn't we want the instant result in our fitness?
Maybe that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way in terms of that instant kind of
everything's instant now. Like
that. That's a good point.
So we're wired now to want things literally like that, you know. So it's like I've been to the gym for a week. I've eaten really well. Like why not 2 stone lighter? And it's like the reality is that's not going to work long term, and it's not going to work like that full stop. And if that's happening, then something's gone wrong. You know, that's not the place you should be. But consistency built up over time, that's what works. But the caveat, again, we've got a few caveats in this. It's like, that's not sexy. That's not exciting. Yeah. Where's that shiny object that just gives me what I want? And we've probably been guilty of it in our businesses, and people will be listening to this that are in business, and they'll be like, that one thing that's going to really make the difference. And the reality is, it's all these little processes that you do consistently over a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I've definitely bought things for my work. I think where I've gone, do you know what, that's going to be the thing.
Yeah,
and not use them. Definitely. And yeah, it does take a little bit of the simple things done consistently over time will always work. And yeah, I think it's a good point you make about that that need for instant gratification.
And again, the sort of like parallel to that is having the patience, which is hard because we're wired to want it straight away. Like, you know, fast food so quick, and movies, everything. Like, remember like back in the day when you used to watch one episode of something, you had to wait a week for the next one.
Yes, well, and that's why they used to get like 20-30 million people watching.
Yeah, exactly. But that's we got used to having a bit of patience. And you know, we talk about binging. It's not just binge food. We binge watch TV programs and stuff now because you know you can. So we're not used to that. We're not used to having patience at all. I think the average attention span is 7 seconds now.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Something ridiculous, like 7 seconds. Like, what is wrong with us?
I say that with this, the world has changed. But yeah, I suppose the thing about time's a weird thing, isn't it? Because if you talk to some boffin who's much more intelligent than me, like, time doesn't actually exist. So it's like the passage of time is an odd thing, and it's an odd perception.
Yeah.
So if I think about the past year, it's gone like that. But then if even now I think about the next year, I'm thinking, oh God, you know, it's January, and like spring's miles away and summer's miles away, and next Christmas, God, I'm not even thinking about it. But it will go in exactly the same speed. So I suppose, again, if you think, right, if I'm gonna, like you mentioned about some habits like getting sleep, doing half an hour of exercise 3 times a week, drinking a bit of water, and doing your 5 a day, which is really boring and unsexy. If you did those 5 things every day for the next 365 days, then do you know what, that you are right. You would be your body and your health and your life would be totally transformed.
And if you think about it, relatively easy things that, to be honest, everyone should be doing anyway. Let's be honest. You know, when we looked at, you know, people in the 70s and 80s, have you seen those old like PE videos where they're just doing some real hardcore stuff? They're like climbing ropes and doing all these crazy gymnastics things, and it's like people just used to be fit. It was just a thing that people, just how people were, you know, and there wasn't anything. There was no clever diets or anything. And yeah, of course, like you can't compare things in the 70s and 80s, but you know, it's just kind of people just used to do it. People used to ride their bikes to work or walk to work, and people used to keep themselves fit. And now things have, for various reasons. Let's not get into that, but we just maybe
normal though. It's not. We live in a the phrase I remember is an obese-centric society.
Yeah,
it's just we're trying to make our world easier, which I get. We're trying to make our life easier, our work life easier, and so and again, our brains are wired for self-preservation and for doing as little as possible to preserve energy. Like if you look at tribes now, the men who go out and do the stuff, they do very little for a large amount of time. They conserve their energy, and that's because they have to have that energy when they need it. And I suppose now, if you transfer it to our lives, I park my car on my drive there. I can drive next to my work. I can walk into my office and sit down. I can have a coffee over there. I can go to the toilet, and then I get back in my car, drive home, park on my drive, and get back in and watch Netflix. And all I'm doing is my brain's hardwired to conserve energy. So all I'm doing actually is what maybe we've evolved to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all want a shortcut. All of us, like we're obviously, we talk about health and fitness, but we're also in business as well. And if someone offers us a shortcut, we're probably going to take it. If you're on a journey and you approach a sign and one just says this way for the shortcut, it's going to take 10 minutes, or this way you're going to go over uneven ground, it's going to take you 2 hours, you're going to go over a mountain, you're taking the fucking shortcut, aren't you?
Yeah.
But the thing is, with taking the shortcut all the time, you don't really learn anything. You don't have any struggle, and sometimes you need the struggle to get the triumph. There's that, like, was that hero's journey? Yeah. You think of Rocky Balboa, absolute classic, a down and out boxer, gets this huge opportunity and he takes the world champion, all the way. And it's that hero's journey. And we need a bit of struggle, because otherwise we don't grow. Everything's really easy, and kids get it a little bit as they grow up. Things are a little bit too easy, that you don't build any resilience. You don't build any broad shoulders and tough, because I don't want to get too far off on one, but sometimes the world can kick you in the fucking face. It can be quite difficult, right?
Yeah, and you need to have those broad shoulders when, like, if you think about health and looking after your body. If life kind of is giving you lemons, you want to be able to still carry on doing some of those habits, even if you haven't got the headspace to do everything. Yeah. And then when you've got over that, you want to go back to where you were and go, do you know what, now I'm back in my little routine.
If life's stressful, you've got all these stresses going on. Your kids have got after school club. You're looking after your family. You're looking after your business. You've got all these things, all adding extra stress. If your energy's low, if you're unfit, if you're tired all the time, you're just going to get more and more stress. But if your energy's good, you're fit, you're alert, you're alive, you've got all this in the bank to sort of deal with it. It's the reason why these stresses build up on us. When it's like when you leave for work and you got a spring in your step, you feel like work can get on top of you and things can happen, but you almost feel like so much better equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I just remembered you said a minute ago about shortcuts. When it comes to shortcut and health and weight loss, and they don't work. And I think everybody watching here would have probably tried one of those shortcuts.
Dude, we've probably tried them. Let's be honest.
Do years ago, I actually bought some pills.
Yeah, I've had fat burners before.
And I wasn't even tracking my food.
Same.
I don't even think I wasn't even weighing myself either. So I mean, it's like.
Yeah, same as me, probably. Yeah, mental. This was a good, 10, 15 years ago, even before tracking was really a thing. We didn't even have the apps to do it. But yeah, you want who doesn't want to take a fat burner that makes you burn extra fat? That's like fucking brilliant. If that's a thing, it's not. But if it was, of course, why wouldn't you take it? But as you say, shortcuts aren't going to work, especially not long term, especially not. By the way, so I've got a pill to swallow, actually. Sorry. By the way, yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow. I like the pun. So I do have to go dead on past. My mum's retirement today. So well done, Brenda. You did it. So yeah, what I want to do is give the guys some actionable steps. So the first thing I was thinking of is, if you haven't been successful in January, figure out why.
Yeah.
Like, get to the root cause of why. Was it because you did too much? So you went to the gym, you did too much, you were running, you're doing all these things. I don't know, and your back went. Chances are that's your body telling you you've done too much, either your back or your groin. Or so identify what was the biggest challenge. Did I do too much? Could I not follow the diet plan? Was it my sleep? What was it? So my first thing would be like, if you didn't get the result or you didn't really come out of January getting where you wanted to get to, like, identify the actual problem. What was it that held you back? Yeah. So that'd be my number one.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place to start and carry on from that. Say if whatever changes you made, make them a bit smaller. So say you mentioned about, I don't know, hurting your back. Maybe you went from doing nothing to trying to do a max rep deadlift and you hurt your back. Shrink it down and actually do it. You can do the same movement.
Shrink the change.
Yeah, shrink the change. And even if you make it smaller, then you hurt yourself again. Okay, but make it down. Get to that point where you can do it consistently and build up from there. The same with diet. If you tried, I don't know, keto and you couldn't function, I don't know. If you want to try cutting out carbs, I wouldn't. It's not my thing. Shrink it down again and say do a bit less. I wouldn't. I mean, life without carbs is miserable. And actually, every single diet works. It's based on one thing. But whatever you've tried, make it smaller.
Yeah, and by the way, that one thing's a calorie deficit. So you need to make sure you're in a calorie deficit. So, like you said, identify the biggest challenge, shrink the change. Is an awesome book, Switch, that talks about that. So if a lot of people get overwhelmed by changing too much, so instead of trying to change everything, shrink the change and make sure whatever you're doing is sustainable. Because I think, if you look at the getting an injury, chances are you've got an injury because your body's not built up, and anyone can get injured, but the chances are if it's happened in January, you haven't built up your body's almost like got it warmed up ready, a bit like an athlete pulls a muscle, because maybe they're not quite peak state and they haven't warmed themselves up properly. So you've got to get your body ready. And also, if you're pushing it, which is good, we want to make sure we're making progress, but if you're pushing it too much that you get injured and you undo all your hard work, what's the point? Especially when it comes to lifting, I think, and especially men, we want to go in, we think we're still in our 20s, we go and lift and we get an injury, and then what? If you're out for, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, what's the point? Your body doesn't know the difference between a 50 kilogram lift and a 60, really. It's only you in your mind going, yeah, but I used to be able to lift 60. So leave the ego at the door.
Yeah, and that's, I think, definitely being older, that's definitely more and more important. And it's something that I talk about with quite a few people I kind of see in the gym, is about getting older and actually looking after yourself a bit more. And actually, I see the young guys doing, and like, again, I'm going to use deadlift as an example, because that's the one I see you done badly a lot.
Yeah.
And and occasionally I'll go over and say, you're making my back hurt. I'm just watching you. Leave your ego at the door and think, do you know what? I'm gonna do me. Nobody in that gym is looking at you. They're all looking at themselves in the mirror. So don't just kind of go, have a plan, go in there, do your thing. And actually, do you know what? If you've worked out and your muscles ache a little bit and you're going away and you're feeling good, and do you know what? That's a great thing. And we're definitely in the zone of we break easier, and also we repair a lot slower.
Yeah. And I think let's give everyone like 3 things. So the first one, identify the biggest problem if you didn't get the result. Second one is shrink the change. So if you've been doing too much, just shrink it down a little bit. And the last one I'd say is be okay with asking for help. The top 1% of successful people in the world ask for help because they've realized there's a gap in their skill set. So I don't know, if you're running a business and your speciality is not marketing, but you're great at selling, employ the dude that's really good at marketing to help, because that's a gap that you're missing. So if it comes to your fitness and it's something you struggle with, ask for help, whether that is a personal trainer or a coach or someone that trains that does well. You see them in the gym, like, ask for help, because you don't want to be sitting and listening to us again in January next year. Or February, having the same fucking conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
So ask for help and then go and fucking do it, basically. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, go and take action. Instead, people talk a lot, don't they? You hear a lot of talk. It's like everyone would rather see someone walk the walk than talk the talk.
And there's like, you're right about asking someone in the gym, someone that looks like they know what they're doing, looks like they're in good shape, warming up and doing a bit of stretching as well. Go and say, how do you do that? And actually, any kind of gym guy who likes the gym would probably be quite glad you asked him for help.
100%. And the reason I said that is like number 3, like ask for help. I put a poll out on LinkedIn last week, and it was like over 35s, have you ever worked with a personal trainer? And I think about 60% of people that voted said yes. And a lot of them were either ex-personal trainers that are now coaches or current personal trainers. So that tells me that when they started, they got help. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why they're in shape. Obviously, they've grown and they've learned through personal training, coaching loads of clients. But initially, obviously, they asked for help. And I did as well. When I first went to the gym,
I've had a person.
I had no clue. And I didn't want to waste my time in the gym. So I paid for someone to help me. Yeah, like we would if we broke our car. You know, but we're so... I think there's a little, especially with men, I think there's a little bit of an ego that tells us that we should be able to do it ourselves and we shouldn't have to pay for help. But remember, guys, if you're getting a bit of help, you're investing in yourself.
Yeah, you get that back. You get it back, and if you look after your body, you get it back. You get it back 10 times.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, we're so quick to sort of buy a new car or a laptop, all these things, you know, that are all replaceable. But if you let your health slip too far, you can't replace it. It's very difficult to get back. You know, so that's So guys, like if you're going to take 3 things from this, that we like to give away 3 things, is identify what the biggest struggle was in January so you can make changes. Second is shrink the change. If you've been doing too much and you've not been able to do it or stick to it and it feels like it's too much, shrink the change. And the third one is get help. There's so much on the internet. We've got more help than ever right now, but yet nothing seems to change, does it? If anything, we're slipping down further.
Yeah, and like I said, find the person that's right for you. Again, look out there. Again,
that's important too. Yeah. All right. So, guys, I've got to go. My mum retired today, so last day. 20 years service at Portsmouth University, and she's she's retired. So, look, guys, as always, we appreciate any feedback, any questions. We're always happy to come on a live. Any shares and likes as well and reshares, we appreciate it. And we hope you guys got some value as always. And we shall see you next week. Cheers.
Right, thanks, Michael.
Cheers, mate. Speak soon, everyone.